Firebending Masters might be one of the most important episodes to air. Not only does it have killer world building with the origin of bending, an episode filled with references to adventure series such as Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, and even Prince of Persia. It also takes a break from Asian influences to pull from Aztec and Mayan civilizations, but most importantly, it transforms everything we think we know about firebending. We often view fire in comparison to the other elements as a purely destructive element. It invokes imagery of forest fires, house fire, and even that classic Christian imagery of the bad place, hell. So the other elements can be, and if not more destructive than fire, but we view them fundamentally different. Water is heavily associated with healing, earth is stability, and wind is change. But there's a different way of thinking about fire than a tool for the devil, and that is hope. If you live in a cold climate, there's almost nothing better than sitting next to the fireplace for that brief moment of time. You're not filled with fear, but with hope. That seasonal depression that has swept through your body for most of the season dissipates. And most of the series, we are presented with only the first mental image of fire as being destructive. And it's not just us as the audience that views fire this way, but also the inhabitants of the world of Avatar. Heck, Aang's first firebending teacher, Zhang, was incredibly jealous of Katara for her water bending, for its healing property compared to that of his fire bending. This extinction of viewing fire as hope in life was, in my opinion, not a mistake, but a design. The Fire Nation, right, is very much a military state. A huge amount of their people and resources are pushed into that of the war effort. We see that with Team Avatar journeying throughout the Fire Nation, with the water of a town almost completely polluted from a war factory. And the stances and forms of firebending is very harsh, and up until this point in the series, when Zuko and a lot of the firebendings uses their bending, it's driven by that of anger. With probably the exception of Iroh, and kind of weird for me to say this, maybe even Azula. Because of the destructive interpretation of fire within the citizens, they can view it as being the most powerful element. That classic philosophical stance of only the strong survive and the weak get eaten up. This view of firebending creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. They are taking over the world because it's their destiny to, because the weaker nations do not understand what is good for them. This obsession with power is very much confirmed in this episode when Zuko explains the history of hunting dragons. By killing the very thing that both gives the citizens its power and the creature then exhibits all of humans' most basic fear, they can prove to themselves that they are the most powerful of them all. So the teaching of firebending being associated with hope and change is swept under the rug for the citizens, except for the members of the royal family, which view it as a chance to recreate the world in their own image. But this is only ever talked about after the Firebending Masters episode. By learning the true meaning of firebending from the Sun Warriors will allow people to view the citizens of the Fire Nation in a different light, and be able to usher in an era of peace. Zuko has been steeped in this viewpoint of fire equals to destruction, and when he's finally calm and free of internal conflicts that he often presents in fits of anger, he can no longer firebend. Now flip that coin over to Aang, and the first time he used firebending, he burnt Katara's hand, and ever since then he kind of has post-traumatic stress disorder when it comes to firebending. He represents the destructive path, and Zuko represents that of anger, that swirling vortex, that moment that they feel like they were going to die. The shared experience not only changes their perception and view of what firebending is, and in turn us as the audience view firebending from a destructive to a much more hopeful and creative side of fire. And it makes sense that it's the Avatar and the Crown Prince of the Fire Nation, because they both have the best chance to help shift the Fire Nation to its new role when hopefully they defeat the current Fire Lord. Anyways, I'm the Forgotten Critic, and once again, I have been forgotten. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to share. It really does help with getting the stuff out there.